costly, but the end result is priceless. Obedience may be costly, but the end result is priceless. Deuteronomy 28, verses 1 to 13, is a long but powerful list of what will result in your life simply for obeying God. And it shall come to pass, from verse 1, it shall come to pass. Something always comes to pass when you obey. You cannot obey and end on the floor. It shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently to the voice of the Lord your God, to observe, that is, get the details, and to do. That's the summary word for obedience. All his commandments which I commanded this day, that the Lord thy God will set you on high above all. Do all, he will set you high above all. Do little, he will set you above little. Do much, he will set you above much. Do all, he will set you above all the ends of the heart. And without prayer, verse 2, all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you. Before you recover from one, another falls you down. If thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God. Those who obey more pray less. Find out. Most people who pray and pray and pray and pray and pray, the level of obedience low. If you obey low, you have to pray high. Obedience is cure to prayer struggles. Obedience may be costly, but the end result is priceless. 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 22. Saul thought he had impressed God with what he did. God says, shut up. To obey is better than sacrifice of prayer, sacrifice of going around. And to hearken than the fat of rams. John 2:5. Whatsoever he tells you to do, do it. And leave it to him. Do what he tells you to do and leave it to him. Leave it to him. Leave it to the doer. If there is anything God requires from you and I, is to obey. He said this is the final commandment of the Lord. To obey him. Obedience is the finality of all commandments of God. Obey him today and you will not struggle tomorrow. Now, obedience is the beginning of miracles and signs. As we saw in John chapter 2 verse 5, whatever it tells you to do, do it. And in verse 11, the word of God tells us this beginning of miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee. How did he do it? They obeyed him. Miracles begins in your life when you obey God. And manifested his glory. And his disciples believed in him. The beginning of God's miracle in your life is prompted by your obedience to his word. Faith comes by hearing the word, but miracles are born by obeying the word. That's why you can be so loaded with faith. If you don't obey the word of faith, it never translates into a miracle. The linkage between the word of faith and the miracles of faith is obedience. You don't know what is in obedience until you begin to obey. I heard that word again from God's servant. You don't know what is in obedience until you begin to obey. And that means blessings awaits our obedience. please be informed, there is no cheap or easy obedience. Obedience will place a demand on you that will require your choice